All right, today I will be showing you how I make my tomato cucumber salad. This salad is the perfect side dish to bring for a potluck or maybe even a summertime barbecue. It is also a fan favorite, so if you make this recipe, be warned, you might leave your event with an empty bowl and several requests for the recipe. And which is what I love about this. This is a very refreshing recipe and yet very simple. We will be using, along with tomato and cucumbers, garlic and red onion, and then that's it. That's all the vegetables we will need for this recipe. Now, I want to show you some of the tools that I use when making this. I have first a mandolin. I use this to do the cucumbers so that way I have a consistent cut on my cucumber slices. You can always use a sharp knife if you don't have one, but if you do have a mandolin, please keep it locked. If it's not in use, it is very sharp. Next, I do have a garlic press. Instead of mincing my garlic, this is a fantastic tool to use instead. And then I have a very sharp knife. We actually recently started using whetstones to sharpen our knives, and they make the world of difference, especially when cutting these tomatoes. So let's get started. We'll start with doing our garlic and our garlic press. Now for this recipe, for this bowl, I like to do 5 cloves of garlic. And because this recipe is really another simple aspect is you can make this at least 2 days in advance, as long as you don't add the dressing to it. So I like to layer the strongest smelling thing at the bottom of the bowl. So I will start out with garlic because it is very strong in the smell, and it's going to be sitting in my fridge for a day or two. All right, now the next layer in my bowl will be the red onion. Now, I do want to make a little note here that if you get a red onion from the grocery store and it's just a really big red onion, I would only use half of the onion. And I would store the other half in the refrigerator for later use. But in today's case, this onion was actually about in between a small to a medium-sized red onion, and so I decided to put the whole thing into this bowl. Now, you can see by how I've been slicing these onions, I'm actually slicing them into thin slices. Rather than dicing them or leaving them in big chunks, I just find that it makes it much more manageable to eat this in the salad or to eat around it if you're not a fan of red onion. The next layer in our bowl will be cherry tomatoes. And I will say, there is actually a reason to this rhyme here where I am doing tomatoes as next. And it's because after the years of making this salad, I have found that the tomato does not absorb the strong taste or smell of the garlic and onion nearly as much as the cucumber does. So I have found that the tomatoes are a really good buffer layer between the strong smelling vegetables and the cucumber, and layer it thus, and it works out really well. Next, we will layer our cucumbers. But before we do, I want to tell you a little trick and tip that we have used in our family, and maybe you've heard of it, where you take the top of the cucumber and you are going to rub it over the sliced part of the cucumber to help draw out the bitterness. This is something that I was taught in my family. My grandmother did this, my mother did it, I do it. And do I know for sure if it is in fact drawing out the bitterness in the cucumber? Not 100% sure that it is factual. But in my mind, when I eat a cucumber that has not had the top rubbed, it tastes bitter. So it makes a difference to me. So I do it. If you have never heard of that before, let me know. But it is, I would say, a family tradition. Now, I have sliced these cucumbers on a number 3 spacing on my mandolin. And now I'm going to collect them into stacks because I find that this is a very efficient way to go ahead and slice my cucumbers in half and start putting them in my bowl as a layer. And I will say, this recipe, as I said before, it is so simple. It is so easy. This is something that, as a family, my young daughters help to do this to an extent. They have a certain job that they have when we make this salad. And so I find that it is a great way to get their feet wet in the kitchen and to start learning practical skills, especially as they get older. And now that the layers are done in my bowl, I like to take a wet paper towel and put it over the top layer of the vegetables. And this is to help absorb the smells that are still in the bowl. And at this point, I'm going to put a bowl cover over my bowl. However, you could use plastic wrap and that would be just fine, and then store it in the fridge. Now it's time for the part of the recipe that gives flavor to this salad. You are going to need olive oil, and I put 2/3 of a cup of olive oil in this recipe to make this dressing. And I will then have balsamic vinegar. This is probably my favorite brand to use. I just prefer the taste of it, but you don't have to. I put in 1/3 of a cup of balsamic vinegar. I will add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, but I just eyeball it. I just say sploosh it in there, you know? Then I like to add it to this jar that I'm going to store my dressing in, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I will also add 1 teaspoon of black ground pepper and 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Now, at this point, I will also add 1 teaspoon of sugar, but you can substitute honey. It doesn't have to be sugar, but I just do a teaspoon. And then I like to put my lid on, and then I give it a good shake. Now, depending on how many days in advance that you're making this, the oil and the vinegar will separate. And so just give it a shake right before you use it. Now is the day we are going to season the salad, and we are going to start with 4 more teaspoons of salt. Salt is the most important ingredient in this recipe. It's going to help your vegetables to begin sweating and contributing to your dressing, and it also brings the flavor. Now is time to start seasoning with the heart. We are going to sprinkle the ground black pepper on top of the salad until it looks just about right, which this looks about right to me. And you just want to think of it as being like a layer, okay? And then next is the crushed red pepper. Now, I do put a lot of crushed red pepper in this salad. And do not be deceived into thinking, well, then this is going to make it super spicy, because it actually does not make it super spicy, but it does give it some flavor. And then, of course, my trusty Paleo powder. I put enough in here to look like sand fell on top of my salad. So you see that sand that fell in there, that red, yummy, tasty sand. And so now it is time to shake my jar that has been sitting on the counter at room temperature. And I'm going to pour it over my salad. And this is the time where we begin incorporating. Make sure that you are getting the garlic that's on the bottom, the onions that are towards the bottom. We want to mix this up really good. You want to make sure everything is coated with seasoning and dressing. Again, the salt is going to create a sweat from the vegetables, which is why we wait to put the dressing in until the very last moment. Today, when I'm preparing the salad, it is for our church fellowship meal. And so it will sit after I've added the dressing for about 2 to 2.5 hours before it is served, and it is perfect when it comes time for serving. So make sure that you got it incorporated. One thing I do recommend is you need to taste it. That means tasting a cucumber and tasting a tomato and making sure that it is evenly coated with seasoning and with the dressing. One thing too, when you taste this, is that you can determine, oh, it's missing something. What is it missing? And it might be I need to add a little bit more black pepper, or maybe a little bit more crushed red pepper, or maybe I need to add a little bit more paleo powder. But I will say one thing you will not need to add is any more salt, because 5 teaspoons is exactly what you need for the salad. With that done, I clean up my bowl and I get my bowl lid over it, and it is ready to go and to serve at our fellowship meal.